So my name is Dan Zadra. I was born in Seattle, Washington. My grandparents originally immigrated from Italy to the Silver Valley, and my grandfather came to Wallace, Idaho in about 1907, and my father was born there about a year later, about 2 years later actually. He sent for my grandmother, and she came across country all by herself to the Silver Valley, and they got married, and he worked in the mines up in Wallace for a while. And lots of other Italians came over about that time, and from that, our part of the Italy, which is up in the north. So there's quite a few. I have quite a few relatives, and some stayed here. And so, like the Albertinis and the Felons and different people from the Silver Valley and the Coeur d'Alene area all live here. And I love the people and the tradition, my Italian heritage and roots, but also I just love this area. So to come back here every summer was what I always looked forward to, and I just always said, someday I'm gonna live here. And I someday finally came. So about 4 years ago we bought a house here, and now I live here, and I just love it. But I've lived in Seattle for most of my life. If I tell people in Seattle what it's like to live here, I'll say, well, it's so beautiful, and they'll say, well, Seattle's beautiful, which it is. And I'll say the pace of life here is different, and they'll think that means completely slow or uninteresting. And it's just the opposite. I think the pace of life is slower here, but people here are enjoying where they live. You can park here. You can. There's beauty year round here. I think people are very conscious that they're in a beautiful place. It's a little harder in Seattle or any city, I think. No matter how beautiful it is, the pace is just different. So for me, it's been great, and I love the people here. I always have loved the people here. And I didn't know how that was going to be, having never lived anywhere else in my whole life. You don't know really. But I feel just completely at home here. There's things here that I see that people who live here maybe don't see even. There's so many trees on the boulevards here. So in the summertime when you drive up and down, it doesn't matter what part of the city you go to, there are these big old trees. And when you go by the cemetery, it's filled with flowers. And that doesn't happen if people aren't where their roots are. And it's very calming for me. So I think I felt more creative here in the last year and a half than any place I've ever been. So start off, it's so funny how life goes. You wake up one day and you're 40 years old and you go, oh my God, I'm a tuba player or something. And it wasn't that way for me. I always, from when I was a little kid, I always wanted to teach. So I started off thinking I'm going to be a teacher, even when I was in grade school, high school, college. I knew I was going to be a teacher. I got to be a teacher. I started teaching, and I just didn't enjoy classroom teaching, and it was such a shock, really. And so I always could write. So I started writing actually, just so I wouldn't have to bartend until I figured out what I would do. Writing is another. If you want it to be, writing is another way to teach. And so I really feel like the kind of work I've done most through my life has been, I've written over 100 children's books. I've written a lot of inspirational books, quote books, and it's all been, to me it's a form of teaching. It's not as important to me to be original as it is to find the best information I can possibly find out there and pass it on to people in a way that touches their hearts and touches their heads and inspires people to do what inspires them. I walked by a McDonald's hamburger stand one day 35 years ago, and it said 1 billion hamburgers served. And it stuck in my mind. I went home and I said, if that guy, if Ray Kroc can come up with a vision of 1 billion hamburgers served, what could I do? And I wrote down up in the right corner of my whiteboard, 1 billion messages of hope and inspiration served. Some of the things that we do at my company is to create things called little window cards, which are little cards that open up with inspirational sayings in them and that can be passed from hand to hand and sent out. And those are, we last year or so, we passed the 1 billion card mark. So those cards are all over the world. They've been in children's hospitals and cancer wards and prison systems. They've been up in outer space with the astronauts. They've been at the bottom of the ocean with submarine crews on the top of Mount Everest, all over the place, but always of an inspirational nature. Just sort of focusing on the best parts of the human nature and the most hopeful parts of human nature, and celebrating the best of human nature. I know that there's a lot of people in pain right now because of the economic situation, and I see people just in agony, having to leave or look for work elsewhere, not being able to take care of everything as they're accustomed to. I think that's going to pass, and I think as this town is in flux. I've watched it all my life, and there is sort of an old school, and there are new people. So there are new people coming in because for all kinds of reasons. And then there are the people that have their roots here, and I think there's a natural clash between those people who want to preserve what's here and people who have new ideas for it. I think it's going to be a challenge, but an opportunity, for people to find a common ground where the growth of this place is something that becomes part of the discourse and the conversation with everybody in the community, and that people can find neither extreme, so that there's not some big growth movement, and there's not some big, oh my God, we can't change a thing movement, because change is something that has to happen. But to do it together as a community that shares a common love for this town and the lifestyle and the roots, and but also acknowledges that the town has a future, I think is a very important work. And to fight and argue about it is going to be natural, but to find common ground, I think, is something that is probably one of the most important challenges. And so to keep what we like and love about this place, but also to be aware that there has to be some kind of growth, I think will be a challenge, an opportunity.